Hello, my name is Sam Feltham, and welcome to Expert Interviews here on Smash the Fat. With me today on the very first podcast and expert interview of 2015 is award-winning journalist and creator of manvfat.com and author of Man v Fat, the weight loss manual. Should be able to see that there. There we go. Yeah, and Andy's got it right there. Andrew Shanahan. How are we doing, Shan?
Very well, thanks. Very well, Sam. Yeah. How are you?
Fantastic. And good to see Man v Fat and Slimology kind of side by side there, by the way. Thanks.
What
Thanks
a handsome couple, I think.
Yeah, well, they're good-looking books, right?
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. That's half the battle with a book, is just making it look attractive so it jumps off the shelves at people.
That's it, and then people can judge the book by its interior rather than its cover, hopefully.
Yes.
But we've had you on the show before talking about the website and community that you've created, Man v Fat, which is obviously a community that's kind of focused towards men losing weight and becoming healthier. And now that you've come out with Man v Fat, the weight loss manual, and it's a fantastic piece of work that we'll really get into in terms of kind of the contents of it in just a sec, but just to remind the listeners and viewers out there, how exactly did you come to setting up Man v Fat?
Well, it was quite simply because I didn't feel that there was anything out there, and it seemed like such an obvious gap in the market for weight loss information for men. I mean, that's the sort of such a basic sounding premise that you would imagine that there were thousands of sites that dealt with weight loss information for men, and there really aren't. I mean, even now, you'd still struggle to find that many websites or any sort of resources that would directly address to men. And although it sounds like a slightly sexist way of approaching things, it's actually quite a valid niche or an approach into the subject of weight loss, I think, just because men approach weight loss from psychologically and biologically such a different path. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that was really apparent to me, I lost around about 50 pounds over the last couple of years, just literally through changing my behaviour, stopping being such an idiot, and and starting to enjoy exercise. And the thing that I found while I was losing that weight was just how few resources and how little support there was for men, both from a governmental point of view, from a local community point of view, but also surprisingly on the web as well. There were resources that pushed me towards something like bodybuilding.com or to buy Men's Health.
And getting ripped as well. You kind of mentioned
exactly.
that.
Yeah, it's just this conundrum and this myth that seems to persist around men, that men aren't interested in weight loss, which I just, for me, certainly, I can only answer for me, and now I think I can answer on behalf of the Man v Fat community that that there really is a huge subsection of men who, yeah, sure, they would love to have a six-pack, they would love to have abs and bigger arms and bulky thighs and all the rest of it, but ultimately what they wanted to do in the first place was to stop jiggling as they walked, and that was certainly true for me. What I was interested in was losing weight, but again, I came back to this idea that, well, men don't lose weight, men get fit, men get ripped, and it just, there was nothing there for me really. And so in that circumstance, when there's nothing there for you, I think you either have the option of going to someone and saying, where is this thing for me? Or, my background is as a magazine editor and as I've created websites and communities. And it just struck me that it was something that I could put out there and try. And so I launched the crowdfunding platform last year. We joined Indiegogo and put it out there at the start of the Man v Fat magazine. And incredibly quickly, a lot of momentum gathered behind the project, to the point where over the course of last year we got 27,000 subscribers to Man v Fat, and it's all word of mouth. There's been no push from that side of things. It's just one of those things, I think, that seems that there is genuinely an idea whose time has come, not necessarily because of, you know, I'm amazing or anything, or I've done it particularly well, but because there is really needs to be this acknowledgement and this discussion around men and weight loss, and just a very open and frank acknowledgement that this is something that we need to have.
And it's quite right. It seems that society is very focused, kind of, you know, on bikini bodies and little black dresses and things like that. But where are the swimming trunks and the, you know, medium-sized black shirts? You know, that's kind of what we want.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it's really apparent when you've been through it yourself. I went and joined Weight Watchers. I've done Slimming World, and I have been the only bloke in the class. You know, and I know that there are loads of other blokes out there who go to those groups, and they are the only bloke in the class. And it's fine, it's okay, but then it's not fit for purpose. Mm-hmm. You're talking about, you know, I can't count the number of times that we would have discussion about, you know, someone talking about their period causing bloating, and then there'd be an in-depth discussion about, you know, the menopause or period. Yeah. I'm just like, you know, I know for a fact that my period has nothing to do with my bloating.
Definitely not.
You know, and if it does, if any men out there listening, their period is causing bloating, please go to a hospital immediately. Yeah.
Definitely. And it's quite right. It's about trying to find that fitted system for purpose, really. And I think that's kind of what you're creating with Man v Fat. As you say, out there's no real kind of focused diet club or just, you know, slimming club that's purely focused on men. It's always been focused on women. And this book, I think, and the Man v Fat community online is going to be a real kind of, you know, catalyst to help kind of drive a real discussion for, you know, guys, we kind of, you know, this is what needs to be done, and we can get it done. And it kind of is in the subtitle, the weight loss manual. It's almost like it almost looks like a car manual. I hope you don't mind me saying that, Andy, at all. But it's kind of like, that's the kind of angle, and it even has it kind of within the actual way that the book is laid out. You actually go through this kind of 3-step process of, you know, how a bloke can find the best way for him to lose weight and become healthy. So can you kind of take us through those 3 steps?
Yeah, sure. It was quite liberating, actually, when I realised that there was nothing out there. For what, on one hand, you can look at it that it's slightly terrifying because there's nothing out there that you can steal, or just, you know, just do the same as what someone else has done, which effectively is what happens within a female-centred weight loss group. You know, they sort of look at what the other female weight loss groups do and steal what they do. So we couldn't do that, but it was actually quite liberating then, on the other hand, to say, okay, well, you know, how do men lose weight? What is the process? And for me, it was just not about overcomplicating the steps that you do to lose weight. So I sort of talked to a lot of guys. I went and spoke to a lot of experts and looked at you know, the British Dietetic Association and things like that, and how the NHS and how they were approaching the issue. And to a large extent, I felt that even, you know, those sorts of organisations potentially overcomplicated things a little bit, and that really there were these, as you say, 3 steps, and what we narrowed it down to was that initially you have to understand why you're fat, and for me, that step has to come first because everything else follows after that. You know, you work a lot with personal fitness clients and things like that, and you know that it's, if the head is there, if you get your head right, all the other stuff, the physical stuff, will follow naturally because your head is already somewhere where you want to go. And I think that's true of the things that are holding you back as well. That unless you deal with those issues which are holding you back and mentally stopping you from losing weight, then you are always going to struggle. I mean, I think that the analogy which I've overused before is that it's like trying to fill a bath with the plug out. You know, no matter how much effort and energy you put into getting a result, it will constantly just be leaking out the other side. And for me, this again is where there's a very definite need for there being a male approach to it, because the issues that men face are significantly different from the issues that women face. You know, I'm not saying that men are the only ones to get stressed at work, But
No.
generalizing wildly, men are often still the main breadwinner for a household. And I know that that's not true of all families, but I think it's still true of the majority. And I think that then you look at other issues that men face, which potentially aren't faced by women, such as the fact that their support networks often aren't as developed in the same way. I'm not saying that men can't be supportive or cooperative, because they can. They just do it in a very different way.
Yeah, banter is often kind of the the linchpin of it all.
Yeah, banter, humour, insults, and
Yeah, exactly.
I was saying to some friends at the weekend that now I'm inevitably on the way to being a Z-list celebrity. Who would play me in the film of my life, the daytime film? And the answer came back almost immediately: Danny DeVito.
Oh no, seriously.
And there was
classic pub answer.
Yeah, there was instant consensus as well. Everyone was like, "Yeah, Danny DeVito, yeah."
Definitely, yeah. Consensus. Let's get a pencil down.
Yeah.
I'll ring his agent.
Yeah. So the first step was understanding why you're fat, and the book goes into the details. So what we did was, one massive resource that we had was thousands of guys who wanted to lose weight. So we asked them. We did a big survey. And we started to talk about, well, what are the reasons? Why do you think you're fat? Why have you put on weight? What are the issues that get to you? And they came back with some really interesting, surprising answers, really. And we look at all of the reasons that the guys have given for gaining weight, and look at how, if that applies to your life, and the chances are that they will. If you are an overweight man, it will be as a result of one of these issues. What is it that you can do about that? So, for example, if you're stressed, stress was a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, activity was the biggest one. I think men do have this slight sort of tendency to think that, again, because I think the media pushes this, that activity is the way that men lose weight. But I still think it's a 70-30, 80-20 split in terms of what you eat and what you do.
Mm-hmm.
What you eat is by far the more important issue when it comes to weight. And we were looking at stress, we were looking at activity levels, we were looking at degrees of support. Were you supported in your group? Who supported you? And if not, why did they not support you? And so all of these things, and I think that one of the other issues that came out, and men were very, very, this is something that annoys me about media, is that, there's this tendency to think of men as these, cavemen, inability to say much more beyond ugh. All they want to do is drink beer and watch football and scratch their asses, pardon my language. But, and that is, men are often presented in this way, that's as emotionally articulate as they get. But actually, when we started talking to them about mental health issues around weight loss, there's some very, very open discussions that we've had that show that men are just as prone to secret eating, to comfort eating,
mm-hmm.
as women are, and that it affects them in a different way because they have it's not really a discussed issue. Sorry, I'll have to switch off the phone.
It's all right, no problem. And it's almost like blokes kind of try to hide their vulnerabilities as well, because they may be the breadwinner for the family, or even just being a bloke.
Yeah,
you have to hide those vulnerabilities.
Yeah, and this is where the importance of having this discussion and the importance of a platform for Man v Fat to exist, it's so vital, because you don't need that crap on top of suffering from an issue like comfort eating, where you're diffusing your frustration or your anger or your an emotion into eating, into a displacement activity like eating, which damages yourself. You don't need the shame of then not having a place to talk about that on top of dealing with this issue. It needs to be more acknowledged, and it needs to be something where men can see that other men suffer from this, and other men are discussing it, and that actually there's no shame attached to it. It's just something that you need to deal with. You need to deal with the underlying emotion attached to that. So that was very much the first step, was understanding why you got fat. The second one, which is a point that you very helpfully dealt with, and we talked a lot actually, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
And it was really, really helpful, because it helped me to see that my firm belief. I know that you're a low carber.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. I love that you're kind of diet agnostic,
Yeah.
and which you kind of have to be at the same time, because almost every single diet will get results to a certain degree.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of, you know, just your perspective on it, really.
Well, I mean, all diets will get results. You know, even the bloody terrible ones pretty much will get results. But
they do.
But actually, what helps is adherence. Adherence is the key. You know, it's sticking to a diet that is the secret to it all. It's actually picking a diet and sticking to it. And the reason that I would never ever put together a man v fat diet that said, you know, it's all about eating avocados in certain phases of the moon, or, you know, whatever.
I would love to see that.
I'll write it. Just, or that, you know, it's one macro versus another. And the reason that, you know, we go back and forth about this all the time, and I say that I get annoyed in a way about the macro discussion, and it's there, it's out there, and there's plenty of people who do want to have that discussion. But my feeling is that what's the point of advocating a particular diet that might be completely irrelevant for someone? You know, let's take paleo as an example. Yeah, paleo is terrific. It's a system that I sort of more or less follow myself, and it's had great effects for me. But at the same time, it's actually quite an expensive diet to do. So, you know, it relies on you having access to good quality organic meat, and usually in fairly large quantities, because you're eating a higher base of protein, you know, decent organic vegetables potentially, you know, and all of these things. Clearly you can follow paleo without, it would be tough actually as a vegetarian, but you know, what's the point of me saying to someone, yeah, go paleo, paleo is the right route for you, if they're absolutely skint? You know, if it's just, it would be so difficult for you, and you would end up eating fairly lousy food to try and fit within that structure, and it wouldn't necessarily be right for you. And by the same token, what's the point of me saying to someone, look, very low calorie diets are incredibly effective, and you know, they do help you lose weight, and a significant amount of weight, but what's the point of saying that to someone if they really do have a large appetite? And this is particularly relevant for men. You know, some guys just want to eat very big portions of food, and you know, they need to find an eating strategy for them. I hate the word diet. It's annoying, and it's so full of pejorative meaning. But you know, what's the point of? Yeah, it does. But what's the point of advocating a diet that wouldn't work for them? So you're absolutely right. My theory is a diet agnostic. That there are hundreds and hundreds of paths that will lead to a healthier you. You have to choose which one is the right one, and don't be fooled into thinking that there's only one. You know, there will be several, and quite possibly during your weight loss journey, you will change from, you know, I mean, I can't count the number of times I've gone from, you know, 4-hour body, following that for 3 weeks, and then, you know, thinking, right, okay, this isn't working for me, I'm sick to death of lentils, and starting, you know, on doing a bit more paleo, that sort of thing. And you have to find a balance that's right for you. And you know, personally, my theory is that it's about you finding the right balance for you, and it's about you devising your own diet, essentially. And experimenting and testing. You know, you are a test pool of one person. And your body will react in a very different way to certain stimuli, certain influences than other people's. It may well be that you are genetically more prone towards obesity. That exists. That is a thing. But it doesn't mean that you can't lose weight. It's just that's the environment that you have to deal with. So it's a very personal, specific thing, weight loss, and I think that you have to do a lot of research, which fortunately is in the book for you, and choose the right path for you, and acknowledge that might be one of several paths all mixed together with your own bits thrown in.
That's it. And I say it in Slimology, where I talk about appropriate action for specific situations for relevant results.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of that. And I always just say that low carb, high fat is just kind of the best starting point, and it will kind of evolve from there. And as you kind of stated there, it will change with time as time goes by, and kind of your needs change, and you know,
Yeah.
even your psychology and personality kind of change as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. But kind of on your step two of, you know, learning how to lose weight, you kind of, you know, start off just with your own rules, you know, basic calorie counting, fasting, low carb, high fat, which thankfully I'm the chap talking about that. Paleo, Weight Watchers, Slimming Well, Juice Detox, Cambridge Diet, Slow Carb Diet. So you kind of got 10 very well known diets that are out there, and you kind of go into detail about them and who they're appropriate for, which I think is a really kind of good point. And then from there, then you talk about getting active, which is also important.
I mean, it was interesting because I didn't choose which diets we would look at. I mean, obviously, I had an influence. I had a voice in terms of the Big Fat survey that we did.
Sure.
But we wanted to be representative of guys out there and say, well, which diets are you interested in? And those were the 10 or 11 most popular ones. And it was fascinating how, you know, again, going back to this idea that men have approached weight loss in such a different way. The top two, which accounted for roughly about 60-70% of respondents, what they wanted to do was not a diet at all. They wanted to follow their own rules. They knew what the premise of healthy eating was, and they had, you know, they could all put together 4 or 5 rules of these things are good steps towards a healthier me. And you know, the majority of men want to do it in that way. They want to create their own diet and take control, and I think that is quite a male drive, really.
Yeah, it is. It's a virtue. We'll call it a virtue, shall we?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, so I think that was really interesting. The activity thing, and something that has baffled me for the longest time, is that there is a slight sort of feeling that actually, you know, what you need to do when you start to lose weight is either run or go to the gym, and those sort of two things are really, you know, seen as the fitness and weight loss things, activity. But a lot of guys don't enjoy running, especially when they're overweight, because it hurts. You know, it hurts your ankles, it hurts your joints, and it's a very tough. You know, if you are carrying 100 extra pounds, throwing that up in the air every step and catching it is not the sort of thing you would go to a gym and put 100 pounds on a bar and do, you know, 15,000 reps of. It'd be insane. But yeah, that's what you do during running. I'm not saying that you can't run when you're overweight, but I'm just saying that it's not necessarily, it's fine if it's not for you. And the same with the gym. A lot of guys go in there because they know that this is where they go to lose weight and to get fit and get stronger, but they don't necessarily know what they're doing, and they don't really enjoy the process because they feel very, you know, examined. They feel under a spotlight when they're in the gym, when they're overweight. So what I really wanted to emphasize is that there are 2 elements to activity. One is the stuff that you do every day as obligatory activity. So it's commuting, for example. It's walking around your office building. It's playing with the kids. It's doing chores. Those things can be, you know, you could just do those, and that would account for all of your activity, and it would be fine. But the other side of that is that then there is the optional activity, the stuff that you choose to do, the fitness. And what I'm really want people to know is that you can choose to do what you like. You know, you don't have to run or go to the gym. If you like bird watching, fine, it's outdoors, it's activity, it's walking. You know, go and do that. Do more of that, but do it in a mindful way where you're actually saying, this is part of my active lifestyle. You know, this is something that I'm going to do. And walking, I think, is a terrific one, because we all, unless, you know, you are a statue, you pretty much will have to move at some point, and that can be your exercise. Just walking to work, walking the kids to school, walking around the house can be your exercise. And if you look at it in that way and start building it up, you know, you can really develop a decent base of fitness, and then you can start experimenting with the gym, with running, with, you know, progressing that to different points. It's not you know, I think that it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a startling point, but don't do exercise you don't like.
Oh yeah, it's just a surefire way to kind of end up just completely going the opposite way,
Yeah,
ending back up on the sofa and
yeah,
just watching, you know, constant episodes of Downton Abbey or something like that. Whatever people are watching these days. Yeah, that is me. Yeah, so you kind of have these great foundations of, you know, creating, you know, a healthy lifestyle, and then you have to kind of create a winning structure, which is step number 3.
and this is where I think you know, men suffer from not having exposure to the whys and wherefores of dieting. Women are exposed to this from kind of the age of 11 through their media, about how you diet and how you track, how you set goals. Men aren't. You know, this isn't, because we don't have a weight loss discussion at any point. This isn't something that we are au fait with, and it's so vital. It is so unbelievably crucial to the success of any diet, regardless of whether you're doing low carb, high fat, paleo, anything. You know, planning it, and it doesn't have to be complicated. It really doesn't. There's probably 5 steps to it, and you know, of those, the most crucial is tracking what you do. So tracking what you're eating, what your exercise is doing, and you know, how that impacts on your body. So whether it helps, you know, so body fat, tracking your measurements. Doesn't have to be complicated. I mean, a lot of the guys quite like using the apps like MyFitnessPal. I think that's fantastic. I personally use a diary because I find that it's just much more versatile than using an app. And I tend to like to sort of, you know, I'm a writer by profession and by nature, and I like to write down how I felt when I was doing things. I like to write about, you know, routes for runs and things like that, and I find it much more useful to do it in a diary. But you know, you'll know this with clients that you've worked with, that unless you've got data, unless you've got information about what's going on, you cannot manage it.
Yeah.
And if someone says, you know, quite often on the forum we'll have people going, don't understand what's going wrong, and you'll say, okay, well, you know, just share your tracking with us if you feel comfortable. You know, email me it if you don't. And say, oh well, I haven't really kept a track of things, and you sort of, you're stuck before you even begin, because you can't say to them, well, look, you know, here you can see on Wednesday, although you've had a great day, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, on Wednesday and Sunday you've eaten 5,000 calories in a super binge, and that therefore puts you over your calorie goal for the week, so you will gain weight. And unless you can start picking away at that process, you really are stuck.
Yeah, because if you don't have that kind of information to hand, you're just making an uneducated guess. You know, okay, this is kind of my general advice, but unless I kind of see exactly what you're doing, or you know, to a near enough exactness,
yeah,
like, there's nothing that I can really do.
No, and it's painful because I find myself repeating that a lot, but I think it's something that men generally need to understand more, and it's fascinating. You know, it has its own rewards when you start. Say for example, it's not just when things go wrong; it's when things go right as well. Say for example, you have a great week, and you think, I've lost 3 pounds this week. That's fantastic, great. I just want to replicate that. If you've written down what you've done, you can replicate it to within, you know, a fraction of what you did the week before. But if you don't, you tend to rely a lot more on supposition and feeling, and just thinking, well, I think it was because I did that run. But actually, when you're tracking it, you're realizing that, oh heck, you know, what I actually did was I was exercising a lot early last week, and you start to realize, exercising in a fasted state before my breakfast really has an impact for me. And this goes back to this idea of it, but you are an experiment of one. That might be a huge impact for you, and you might find that your body responds incredibly well to exercising in a fasted state. It might not work for everyone, but it might work for you. And this again is where tracking and that structure around your weight loss really comes to the fore. You're talking about an investment of 2 minutes at the end of a day. to generate data which is going to absolutely help you to achieve your goals. And you know, if there's one thing that you take away from anyone watching this takes away from it, track your goals, track your weight loss, track your measurements, and track what you're eating and drinking and doing, and that will give you an absolute goldmine of data which you can use to affect positively your life and your weight loss.
Awesome. Yeah, I highly recommend people doing that. And in fact, if you just grab Slimology there and then kind of flick towards the back there, Shan, you can see there's a 30-day lifestyle diary in Slimology. How good is that?
Did you notice at the back of...
Oh, yeah, and then in Man v Fat as well.
Yeah. Weekly tracking sheets. Come on.
Awesome.
Just track.
It's simple, and it doesn't have to be the diaries that are in there though. It can just be kind of just a simple diary that you get at a local supermarket, even a notepad, you know, where you can just put the date on the top. And then, you know, it's just about kind of, you know, just tracking your weight, waist, and hip circumference if you're a woman, and then just kind of your food and activity. Yeah, that's kind of just the basic.
Yeah, and it's fascinating the insights that it throws up. I mean, do it for a couple of weeks, and you will already start.
It doesn't have to be forever as well. I suppose that's kind of the other thing.
No, I mean, personally, I would advocate. I think it's useful enough to do, and I think that the return on the investment of time is so ludicrously high. Why wouldn't you? You know, I mean, if you can do something else for 2 minutes per day that gives you that many insights, then you would do that. But you know, things that I've found through tracking that I wouldn't have known otherwise was just how sensitive I am to dehydration, for example. Wow. You know, I get badly dehydrated, which is why you probably see me drinking quite a lot during the interview and things, and I've realised how much that impacts my weight loss. You know, being dehydrated and actually, you know, making sure I was drinking enough water has a huge impact on my weight loss, and almost counterintuitively, where you'd think, you know, I'm taking on a lot of liquids, that's going to have a negative impact on the scales, but it's the absolute opposite for me. It really, really helps. You know, things like that, and things like, you know, supplements. I'm a big believer in experimenting with supplements. I know that they're not the magic bullet, but I enjoy experimenting with them. I'm not wild about the protein and the sort of this. I like the natural ones. Like one of the ones that I found recently that is absolutely fantastic is psyllium husk. Brilliant. And do you use that at all?
Yeah, I do. Well, not personally. I recommend it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Someone recommended it, so I thought I'd try it, and I just sort of added it to my list. And again, tracking it, I really noticed its effectiveness, and it's unbelievable. It's one of those. I have a very short list of supplements which I think actually do, you know, help things and help weight loss, and that's undoubtedly on it. Psyllium husk. That's my tip for 2015.
There you go. It's going to go skyrocketing in sales after this, Shan. Sure. Fantastic. And well, kind of towards the end of the book as well, you've got a big list of recipes that are kind of you know, to do with the diets that you talk about in step 2 and things. So you kind of help people just, you know, get a basic hand on exactly kind of what they're going to be eating, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it would be interesting, because what we wanted to do with these 10 diets that were most popular with men, and the ones that they actually wanted to try or were doing, what we wanted to do was almost say to them, look, you know, if you had no other resource other than the Man v Fat Weight Loss Manual, then you would be able to go away and do this diet. Now, obviously, there are further resources that you can go and find to do these diets, but we wanted to also give an idea of what you might be eating on a typical day. Say, for example, on a low-carb, high-fat day, or on a Weight Watchers diet day. Because I think that's, for me, certainly, it's one of those things that, you know, it's all well and good agreeing with the philosophy of a diet and thinking, yeah, I can sort of see why that works. But then to actually look at what you eat, that's often the deal breaker, because you're like, wow, I'm going to be eating so much. I mean, Slimming World, who knows what kind of deal they made with Muller Lite in the distant past. You do end up eating, I mean, again, based on my own experience, you end up eating thousands of the buggers. And you know, I think if you know that in advance, then you can sort of say to yourself, okay, well, not wild about Muller light yogurts. I might not. That might not be the diet for me. And ham as well. Ham and Muller light yogurts. That was my
Really, that's the subsistence of Slim.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not one if you're dating really.
Very good, very good. Well, fantastic. It's a really well put together book, as I said, and it's great that I'm in it.
Yeah,
That's the other bonus.
I think that's the unique selling point of it, really.
Definitely, that's the pièce de résistance.
You and your French.
Yeah, I'm getting better and better. I recently proposed to my girlfriend, now fiancée, en français, because she's French.
Oh, is she?
So,
right.
Yeah. So that's why I keep on coming out with French phrases. Not that they're like, you know, wild French phrases or anything. They're like everyday English phrases, but you know, I'm just getting more into it. You know, I'm trying to show off to the now in-laws that, you know, I'm getting into French culture and that.
Yeah. Congratulations, by the way, Sam. That's fantastic.
Thanks. Yeah. It was pretty nerve-wracking, but you know, I pulled it off.
Didn't you do it in quite a stylish way? I see.
It was on Christmas Day, and it was round the dinner table with her 92-year-old grandma right next to her mother there, her auntie, her sister. It was like, you know, pressure. It was make it or break it, and thankfully I made it. So there we go. But yeah, thankfully, now that we're in a new year, you can get Man v Fat. You should be able to see that. Yeah, there you go. In most bookstores within the UK. And also, you can get it on Amazon in the UK and the US.
Yeah, it's available worldwide.
Brilliant. And if you want to help support the show, make sure that you follow smashthefat.com/MVFUK if you're buying it in the UK, or smashthefat.com/MVFUS, and that'll put a little bit of coal on our fire to help support the show. As Vinny
support people, come on.
What? Sorry, Andy.
You've got a wife to support now. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to build a family here. Help me out. But anyway, I highly recommend going to grab that book. And were there any other wise words that you wanted to leave us with, Shan?
Just, funnily enough, I was writing something earlier, and it struck me that I'd stumbled upon something that was useful to say, at least, which is the fact that if you haven't started your weight loss program yet in January, I came to the conclusion that January is actually a bloody awful time to start dieting. Because you go through December as, you know, the Bacchanalian feast culminating in 2 high points of consumption on Christmas Day and New Year's Eve. And then suddenly, within the space of 12 bongs of Big Ben, you're supposed to turn into this virtuous, you know, salad-loving, gym-attending person. And it's such a volte-face, French, that it's very difficult. So my big thing is that if you haven't started yet, don't worry, get the book. The book will take you through planning your diet, and that, I think, is the key. Just a bit of time, sensible, read the book with a Snickers in your hand, that's fine, but just understand that planning and a little bit of research will make your diet work that much better and track.
Fantastic, very, very wise words and common sense, which isn't too common these days. I mean, there's only one thing to do, and that's to hear a smash it out from Andrew Shanahan of manvfat.com. So on 3, or it's a shout, smash it out to the camera. So 1, 2, 3.
Smash it out!
That's what I'm talking about. Fantastic. Definitely go to check out the book, and definitely check out manvfat.com as well. A great resource for blokes looking to lose weight. Thanks again, Andy, for your time today. Much appreciated, mate. And next time that you're down in London, we have to meet up.
Absolument.
Absolument, oui. Super, ok. A bientôt, mon ami.
A bientôt.
A bientôt. Ciao, ciao.